also promoting broader rights integration. For example, taking forward work on RVs and Amazon, other activities. So, but we're open to suggestion, we're open to interest, we're open to collaboration. So let us know if there are things that any of you would like to engage with us on. Yeah.
The accountability mechanism that you referred to, is that what are you talking about? The one who's sort of the International Development Bank? So you're talking, is that the kind of thing you're talking about? You're talking about within all the treaties?
What we are interested in is in two levels. One of them is to have a better sense of what's out there in the international system, so that we would know where to go or where to advise others that we're working with to go to take forward things or concerns that they have. So have a better picture of that, but then also looking at for our own institutions what kind of accountability mechanisms. Like for example, WWF has recently established a kind of complaints handling process. So to look at, say, what the multilateral development banks, what kind of institutional mechanisms they've put in place. Some NGOs and NGO Consortia have done this, looking at certification schemes, just to get a sense of what are the types of mechanisms and approaches that others have used, so that we can see what we can adapt and use actually in the context of our
Can I ask a specific question related to that? So with respect to WWF, companies usually label, and there are complaints by somebody that they can be used improperly. There's not now, is there now could be a mechanism, or procedure by which somebody can go to WWF and say, complaints being misused by X, or do something about that?
When you say label, you mean WWF?
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know all the details of this, but I don't think there's actually like companies use WWF's logo. There are, so for example, we have something called the Global Forest Trade Network that WWF has helped set up with other organizations, and companies participate in that. That doesn't give them label that they're allowed to use. It just says that they're participating in that.
But they mentioned in their annual report that they are a member of their CSR activities includes
Yes.
this.
Yes. And so what, and actually the program was recently reviewed, including looking at some of these issues about, what are the threshold participation requirements, because it actually, it's kind of complex, because on the one hand, I think the view has been, well, we don't only want to work with companies that already have good practices. We want to change bad practices, so we want to exclude the poor actors. But it's just that we don't want to set the threshold requirements too high. But at the same time, in setting the participation requirements, then there have to be clearly established, milestones and clear progress towards those to maintain participation in something like the Global Forest Trade Network. But it's true that it means that there is some participation of actors who have problems, and it's just a matter of being able to show credibly that through that association we're able to move that forward.
All right, I think one of the issues relating to the right is generally we make reference to conservation organizations. So we all adhere to the international frameworks. But the main question is how binding principles that we promote to us. And one practical example, WWF and other organizations work with government, supporting government in implementing conservation programs that sometimes have huge impact on people's life, negative impact. And a few years ago, I was working with WWF, we had this dialogue discussing nature poverty linkages. And the one thing that we did was to develop a position paper on nature and poverty. And the critical question was, under what conditions, what are the rules of engagement? Should we engage in a conservation program just because it has a high biodiversity impact? Or should we also consider the human factor? Should we engage in a program that our species minded as conservation programs? So it's not a question of because we can keep on saying yes, we are attached to international conventions. Once we have a conservation opportunity, we say, okay, we are just giving support to government. We are not really making sure that the government is respected.
Yeah, I think I mean, this is, it relates to, the limits of NGO influence and authority, but I think that there is, and the way that our policies are structured, I just say that it's a matter of what we will support, so we can control what governments do. Therefore, we can't be accountable for everything governments do, but we can be accountable for the activities that we support, and a decision of whether or not to support them. So what did you conclude?
Well, it was a statement. It was a statement. We were saying, yeah, it was a statement that, in principle, we shouldn't engage if there is clear indications that this program is going to infringe people's fundamental rights. And it is a kind of dilemma. Are you going to leave the biodiversity lost because you want to respect people's rights? Or what's the threshold?
Well, I guess I'm hopeful that there are more synergies than losses in this. I think, and it goes back to the point. It's somewhat operational or procedural, but you're saying, talking about moving forward with a conservation activity that could have a negative rights impact. That's where that process of you're looking at how you're designing your program, doing the due diligence. What are the potential implications of this? What are the potential social rights impacts of this? And then adjusting what you're doing to make sure that you're not generating.
Yeah, I think the challenge is also that it's not so. There's not a clear, very often not a clear line between what is really a negative impact or could it also have a positive impact to a certain extent. Just to give an example, I participated yesterday in a knowledge cafe on World Heritage Sites and Conditions communities. And there the issue is, UCN is one of the advisors analyzes designated or suggested heritage sites. But the infringement of these rights actually goes back to the time when an area was designated as a protected area. Now, after, I don't know, maybe a decade or two, the government decides to list it, or wants to list it as a heritage site. Now, I mean, probably the dispute is still ongoing. It might have been settled. It might, have been. It's how long do you? The question is actually how long can you also go back in history? What extent of legacy do you want to deal with, and also can ASEAN do it, and what if so, if it's clear there's a dispute, what should you do? Because in some cases you could, by bringing this to attention, because listing it on the heritage list would, bring some more attention to this issue. This could have a positive effect also for the rights issue that's going to be picked up. In other cases, it might just be used to sign, show, okay, are you signed off? So it's it depends kind of on the project you are implementing. For example, also, are you consulting a government in, let's say, an international negotiation, on the ADS negotiations? You know that some consultancy work, but you don't know actually what the outcome will be, and you can already predict that not, in all cases, ADS will be implemented or whatever. So you could even build there a case, okay, you are engaging in an activity which will later on lead to a negative or have negative consequences just because the government also is not obliged to follow the laws. So I don't see this. I think that's kind of a challenge, because you always have this conflict. Do we want to engage in maybe make a positive contribution, or do we just ignore it and then it's kind of lost anyways?
There are a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of being able to credibly show that by engaging, it's contributing to making things better. And yeah.
So, and I hope in different point of view, you are talking about the human rights and conservation, but the way in which we work, there is human right, now we are human, now, but there is right of nature, very clearly in the customary or in there is right of nature. Not only for conservation, but yeah, there is right. So we cannot arbitrary or what you like or your property right is everything. It is on top that you can cut every tree, catch every fish, or you can get what you want. So what I come is that this is our customer and right, and because we need to negotiate or to dialogue with the civil society, to negotiate with the government. So we come to know is, and I would like to be more clear about what international convention and this maybe our government have also signed this convention and then run international convention to the national law and to what we can negotiate with it. It's sometimes maybe the international convention is support us, but the national law is not yet changed, and we can push it, or we can with the help of our legislature or legislature to help us to give our proposal to the government. But the basic is the link. Yes, for us, yes, there is right of nature, very clear, and we are doing with some conservation for millennia. And of course, there is also crisis because traditionally we live wholly and fully connected with our, the ecosystem service and the biodiversity resources. And this is only for a sustainable life, not for market, not for money. But now, of course, there is in a global market and in the consumer society, our younger generation more and more, and also outside will come in, take from us. There's something, and this can become product to go into market. And in our very basic and very radical position is, our people, would like the ecosystem service and the biodiversity resources in our small island is always for our survival or for our sustainable livelihood only, not for market. So I've attended your training course at ABS, and yesterday I go to the IOC ecotourism. This is my imagination. Our expectation that maybe we can keep that we don't sell our island, our nature, to make money, to get income. But maybe there is a possibility of a real sustainable ecotourism, and also come from the income from the genetic resources or biological resources. Maybe we can have tribal volcanic garden to do these things. Because I know in Taiwan there is horticulture company. They always collect from us, and then they grow it and sell in Taiwan. But this should be also one of our possible income. But of course, for a living, just yesterday I've seen Buddha say, happiness is a place. Okay, so maybe not. We don't need so much money. We are not to go as rich as you, but maybe there's a country that have 30,000 or 40,000 US dollar. It's called GMP or something. And of course, I do 3,000 maybe too. And we will be happy.
As environmentalists, we are rich beyond the wildest dreams of avarice. I was going to say, building on what Teju said, not to proselytize our work as natural justice, but having caveated in that way. I think, Jenny, everything you've set forth is excellent, and we very, very much support this. Wonderful to see it going on, and lovely to hear the background and also the future trajectory. I think natural justice's addition or support for some of this is where the CH Conservation Mission on Human Rights is focused on part of the system, and that is basically reforming the actions of conservation organizations, which is right on. So that part of the system, there were problems identified, lessons have been learned, and how can this group of 8 reform its practices and improve. And at the same time, in terms of the earlier point I made, we've also identified that there's a lot of development happening, or commercial transactions that are happening that are also either relatively unjust or extremely unjust. And that's another part of the system that has to be reformed. But the vision is quite a top-down one. I don't mean that in a pejorative sense. I just mean that it is looking at further regulating the actions of those proponents of projects or proponents of commercial transactions, etc. We feel one of the best safeguards for all of this is empowered communities themselves. So that is, in addition to, it augments this work. So hopefully what you then have are increasingly sensitized organizations, businesses, engaging communities for both social and environmental outcomes. But they are engaging communities who know what their local responsibilities are to their lands, their own communities. Also, they know what their rights are. So the question you proposed earlier is totally negated, because it's not a question of shall we engage in projects that sometimes might, in certain instances, infringe communities' rights. That question is completely off the table. Why? Because you're engaging communities, organizations, and others, and you're engaging in contexts where that cannot happen. So that's the sort of emphasis. Good morning. Hi.
Just to object slightly. I mean,
Yeah, good. No, good. This is why.
In all cases, it's true that communities know all their rights.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
Okay.
No. What I'm suggesting is, sorry, we will. why don't you introduce yourself now, actually, to us, and then we can update you.
Okay, if I'm not taking time.
No.
It's okay. I'm Safa Al-Farsi from Southern Afghanistan. I'm working for Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries over there. I'm acting as the head of seed and plant genetic resources lab in the Directorate of Research in this ministry.
Do you want to say something?
No.
No. So what I'm saying is exactly right. There are lots of communities who do not. So the point is that what is being done under this initiative and others is absolutely critical work. But we feel that one of the best safeguards for undergirding this kind of approach is to then work on, and this is where a stepwise approach amongst other things comes into play, to empower communities to know, I was just looking here, 16 and 18, whose rights, or what rights and whose rights. So knowing what those rights frameworks are and having very concrete, practical ways of affirming and asserting those rights creates the kind of dynamic that they're just talking about, so that when either commercial interests arrive on the island, want to engage, or conservation or military bases, the community isn't just requiring, like lacking agency, hoping that this agency will behave itself, hoping that they will choose one of those two options that you put on.